Did you see this? There was a large company. I don't know if you want me to name them. So during COVID, right, people couldn't get a bus in the United States. We have Greyhound.
Right.
And these companies shuttle you in on a bus like cattle. And that's one thing I tell people, just when they
Shuttle you in like cattle. That is Mark Rumps. Trucking Answers, his YouTube station. Mark and I sit down for a discussion about trucking today in the midst of COVID-19. Join us. Let's get on with the show. Welcome to the Dawg on It Trucking Podcast. When it comes to trucking safety, the Dawg is on it. What do we do on this show? I get to talk to some of the most influential trucking executives in our industry so that we can pick up new tips and tricks to use in our everyday businesses. So with that, let's get on with the show. Mark, welcome to the Dawg on It Trucking Podcast. How in the heck are you, my friend?
Going great, like it always does every day.
Mark, I got to say thanks so much for being on. I don't know if you checked out my YouTube channel. You have like 20 times more subscribers on your YouTube channel than I have. So I appreciate the large star helping out the fledgling little guy.
I don't know about large star, other than in actual physical size.
Well, I think it's great. And for the listeners out there, Mark has his YouTube channel is Trucking Answers, and I'll put a link in that to that in the show notes below. But Mark, what made you start Trucking Answers?
Well, I saw so many drivers on YouTube recruiting for their companies. That's one thing. All they do, they put out how great their company is and stuff. That's all garbage. Some drivers make more money recruiting than they do driving. And they're basically lying about their company just to get you to come on because they get $500 as soon as you take your first load. And there's tons of other drivers who have been driving 3.5 weeks, giving out all kinds of trucking advice. Oh, well, I started in April, so, I can give. So that I figured, you know what, I can just get on there and do stuff too. And here I am today, all these days later.
Well, all these days later, you are in your high 30s, you say.
My extreme upper 30s, that's correct.
Yeah, extreme upper 30s. You say you started driving at 21?
That's correct.
And so how many miles do you figure you've driven?
Gotta be close to 4 million.
Okay, and how many, I just want the listeners to know this, how many accidents have you had out of that 4 million?
None.
None.
No accidents, no tickets.
I mean, hold on, I've got to find the button here for that one.
Oh, sound effects. There it is.
Well, we got to have a little fun, but 4 million miles and no accidents.
Yeah.
And just while we're talking about accidents and crap that can happen out there, how many tickets?
No tickets.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm some kind of great driver. Certainly when I started driving, a lot of it was luck. Okay. I remember blasted through the snow going, I wonder why everybody's going so slow, when I started driving. Turns out I'm an idiot. So certainly starting out, a lot of it was luck. I did get a lot of luck out of it. So I'm not saying, oh, look at me, I'm so great. I got lucky on part of it.
Yeah, but as you got more experience, I imagine, made it a safety became part of your everyday routine.
Oh, absolutely. It's all safety now. And plus, say I have some kind of incident now, I'll never get those miles back. I'll have to drive to my extreme upper 40s. And holy moly.
Well, and this is it. My thing for the listeners out there is it is possible to go millions of miles and be crash free.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not the only one. There's lots of drivers, You see them on the side of trucks, 3, 4 million, 5 million I've seen on a yellow truck before. So, absolutely.
Yeah, and yet I'm in the safety end of things, and yet I see drivers that have 2 and 3 minor but incidents a year. And just flat.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You're a professional. You should want to be safe. That's your job. That's why they give you the keys to the truck, to be safe with it.
Well, yeah. It's just, you bring that up, keys to the truck and everything. What do you think of safety bonuses?
I don't think they do any good. Like it doesn't, I don't get one, and it doesn't change the fact that I'm still safe. I would like to get it. I would certainly take it if they gave one, but I'm not going to be more safe because of a bonus. I might lose the bonus. You know, that's never, I don't think that's in anybody's mind. Oh, I better look out here because otherwise I'm going to lose my $300 or whatever. I don't think so.
And I look at it, there's a lot of companies in my neighborhood that give out bonuses for a clean inspection at the scale.
No, that's not a bad idea. That might encourage drivers to actually get out of their truck and, do a pre-trip rather than just getting in it and making sure the oil gauge works, which is, sometimes you do a pre-trip that way.
Well, sometimes in my neighborhood, it seems it's all the time they do the pre-trip that way.
Yeah, the colder it is or the worse weather, then that's how you do the pre-trip.
I wish, speaking from a safety point of view, if a driver would actually do a pre-trip the way it's meant to be done 90% of the time, then on a really bad day like you're talking about, weather-wise, I can understand them cutting it short.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right. Just on the rainy day or whatever, you could pass on it because you pretty much keep track. It's not like you go out and check your oil in your car every single day. So absolutely.
Yeah, but most drivers that I see never do a pre-trip, and it's rare when they do a proper one.
That's correct.
So Trucking Answers, what do you, I've watched several of the videos there, and they're you usually have an opinion that you express, especially your Sunday rants, which are usually shot at a car dealership. Everyone that I've seen is at a...
Yeah, sure. I like looking at cars too. So I'm out looking at cars. In Indiana, the dealers are closed on Sunday by law, even though I don't agree with that law. But they're closed, and so I'm out looking at cars, and I'm out getting the paper anyway to get the coupons, and figure I'm going to talk about something, no matter what it is.
And I find your Sunday rants. What was your... Well, let me get to a rant.
Sure.
Not a rant, really, but the new hours of service that are about to change, and from what I read today, they go into effect September the 28th. Apparently.
Right. Because it's 120 days from publication in the Federal Register.
Right. You had a rant about this equaling more unpaid time for truck drivers.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you mean? Why do you think it's going to be more unpaid time?
Well, the 30-minute break basically goes away. They're allowing you to, be on duty or anything other than driving. Well, drivers are not going to get paid for that. And the split sleeper is, I think, where it's really going to hurt them, because now both parts of the split don't take away from your 14 hours. You get to stop your clock. Well, company A is going to be like, well, you're at the dock there. You can just split your sleeper. And instead of paying you, you'll be like, most drivers, for some reason, think like they should work more to make more money. And so drivers are like, well, I'll just sit here for free and then I can drive more miles, rather than griping at the company to get them paid for the time that they're already doing sitting there. But that's how that's going to work. Drivers are just going to sit around for nothing so that they can drive more.
Totally agree with you. And until I watched that video, I'd never thought of it that way. And so, one, I thank you, because it's a huge issue. I worked a lot of hours for free when I was driving, and I hated it. Like, why are we as human beings called truck drivers, and we get to give away time all the time, like 2 hours out of loading dock? It's flipping ridiculous.
I know people do it though. They volunteer for it. You get, in anything, you get what you will accept. So drivers that accept, they're getting it. They complain to me about it, but they won't do anything about it. If a company couldn't get people to do it, they would have to pay you. That's why when drivers go from being over the road to being a local driver, you rarely see it go the other way. Like, oh, I need to go back on the road and sit around. They realize, oh, you know what? All this time could actually be paid.
Yeah.
And that's how the road companies lose drivers to local work.
Well, you just mentioned road drivers and local drivers. You're out of Lafayette, Indiana. What is the employment? We're taping this in the middle of COVID. The pandemic's still in both countries.
Right. I almost saw one going by, so I was going to look around for them.
What's the employment history like in the area right now?
Well, employment is driving, of course, is no problem. Here in Lafayette, we make Subarus, So there's a huge plant, Wabash National, which I'm sure you've heard of, trailers.
Yeah.
The plant is here in town. So there's tons of employment here, no problem.
So still truck drivers are in demand.
Oh, yeah, always. Always. Other than last month where a bunch of us got laid off. As you saw in the news, 90,000 drivers or whatever
Right.
were laid off. But depending when you're watching this, I guess, right? So maybe not last month, but all those jobs will easily come back here in the next few months, I think, as everything opens back up.
Yeah, and thank God they're starting to open up. You know, as I said, I'm a Canadian, so I'm on the other side of the border. But for Southern Ontario, auto freight is huge. And we just lost GM they're closing their plant down. So, or they've already closed it, I guess. And, you know, that's literally, I don't know, couple thousand loads a day.
Yikes. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. Just hundreds of loads. I'm just looking at my questions here. Do you have other channels on YouTube or other methods of expressing your opinions?
Well, sometimes I go outside and just yell my opinions randomly to people, but that doesn't seem to work as much, and I don't reach as many people that way. You know, I have a website at truckinganswersnation.com, and I have a lot of questions people can ask a new company, you know, that they're going to and stuff like that. I'm on Facebook at Trucking Answers also. I have an Instagram, but I haven't posted on there, so I always hesitate to tell people about it. And also on Twitter, everything at Trucking Answers. So tweets sometimes come out from me as well. When yelling at people randomly doesn't work.
Well, I mean, those are my favorite videos of yours. When you get going on a company, what was it, Company of the Week? Or I don't want to say shitty Company of the Week, but...
No, we used to do Crap Company of the Week here.
There we go. And you no longer do that?
No, we don't do that anymore. I do like things to consider about a company. I'll do that kind of stuff. There's just so many. I mean, you can almost lump, if the company says American Trucking Association somewhere that they're a member, you could pretty much lump them all in there. That's basically how it works.
And I know that, believe it or not, I am a fan of the Trucking Association, but I don't think you're of the same opinion.
No, I think because if you look at the member companies of the ATA here, those are the ones that don't pay you for your time.
They don't pay you for your time?
No, those are the large companies that have all this unpaid waiting time, 10, 20, 30 hours a week. And they are the ones that go to Congress and say, oh, we're, the boo-hoo us, we can't get drivers. Yeah, well, yeah, when you don't pay them anything and force them into a contract that they then can't work anywhere else because they're like the mob. So other companies won't hire you if you're on a contract. They just won't touch you. And so then they wonder why we can't get drivers. We have to let's recruit from overseas or whatever. It's all ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. They should all close tomorrow.
Well, I hope they don't all close tomorrow, but I agree that their employment practices need to flip and change.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if you have the same thing. In Canada here, we have this, what's called a driver Inc. problem. So drivers incorporate and then they drive company trucks. And the advantage to the driver is that he's self-employed, so he pays less tax. The advantage to the trucking company is that I'm paying a contractor, so I don't have any withholdings and all that kind of stuff. And it creates an unlevel playing field. It's been deemed illegal, and yet it's rampant. Most companies, many companies, I'll bet you at least 50% of the companies here in Ontario are doing it.
Yeah, there's tons of they call that 1099 in the United States, where companies will pay the driver, as a 1099 employee, which is an independent contractor.
Okay. No
withholding, no workman's comp, no insurance. And then if you get hurt on the job, the company's like, oh, well, you're independent. So sorry, too bad for you. It's illegal here as well. It's against IRS regulations, and there's no oversight. The government doesn't do anything about it because trucking, the ATA goes, it pays all this money to government to keep trucking, to keep the government out of their back pocket.
Yeah, no, and again, it's another sin. It's similar to not being paid for the work, because now when you need insurance, when you need health coverage, when you need, if you do get hurt and you're going to be off a couple of weeks, wouldn't it be nice to get paid, for God's sakes?
This is another thing drivers volunteer for in the United States. They constantly, because the company pays you more money, theoretically, your check looks bigger. because nothing's being withheld, including taxes,
Yeah.
until the end of the year. And probably, at the beginning of each year, I get all these letters. Oh, what do I do now, Mark? I owe the government $14,000. I'm like, I guess you make a payment plan with them or something. I don't know what you do.
Yeah, well, and I'm sorry, I'm not sympathetic to them because they should know, and I pay my taxes that I must pay. I don't like to overpay, obviously, but I do pay them. And
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to the IRS, we all pay the exact amount that we're owed, and even some extra, just for the heck of it,
yeah, sometimes, and it really,
because we love them.
well, it pisses me off that some people try to cheat in your country. The IRS up here, Revenue Canada, try to cheat it because we both live in great countries, and unfortunately, we need tax dollars to support it all.
Oh, I totally support the IRS and 100%, because I'm sure they're watching.
Okay, let's say I don't think that the YouTube channel is quite that popular yet on my side. Maybe on yours, they could be watching.
Drivers just do this because they think they're getting more money, and it works out until there's an issue, like you get a home loan, so you're not employed, so it's tough to get a loan because you don't have a job. You have to do all this stuff, or you get hurt, and then the drivers are like, now what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. Buying your own insurance, at least here, health insurance is very expensive to buy it on the open market. You're way better off being a company driver over a 1099 here, just if you had to buy health insurance. I don't know, isn't it free there or low cost for you?
It is, but if you go outside of the province, no, outside of province is fine. If you go outside of the country, you'd better buy insurance. And
So maybe up there, your drivers on this Driver Inc. have maybe a better time of it than you would here.
well, maybe, but most of the drivers that I see doing this are cross-border drivers. So if they get hurt in the States, they better have third-party coverage because they've got no workers' comp.
It's no good. They're doing the same thing. They just are looking at a little bit more money.
Yeah, and they're avoiding taxes. And
Right.
Anyway, get me going on that one.
You're going to have to start a Sunday rant too.
Oh, because I hate that one. I used to be a recruiter for a fairly large company. We had 800 owner-operators working for us, or 800 power units. And it used to piss me off that many truck drivers would be taking home more money to their families than I was, even though my salary was higher than theirs. But actual take-home dollars, they were doing much better.
Yeah, for that, right then they were. But the government should step in and not allow this. Companies in the United States advertise this 1099, right? That should be enough right there to shut the whole place down, because the company itself is hosing the government out all this tax money too.
Well, here in Canada, they estimate it's $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion tax problem.
Oh, it's way more than that here. There's tons of companies that do that.
Yeah.
Tons of them.
Well, generally speaking, anything we do in Canada or anything the States we look at, we take 1/10 of that. So the other way, it would be a $10 billion loss in revenue, at least for the States.
That's how the metric system works, by tenths. So perfect. Now I understand the metric system. Got it.
Yeah, kind of. Hey,
Exactly.
Don't get me going, because I can never convert liters to American gallons.
Right. I just times by 4, and that's close enough.
Yeah, it's close, but it ain't any good. Hey, look, I'm going to put a screen, a picture of a book on this screen. I'm going to cover my face and put a picture of the book in front of it, and it's called Couch to Concrete. Tell us about Couch to Concrete, a beginner's guide to getting started in the trucking industry.
Well, I wrote a book, and this will get people right from their couch all the way into their first driving job, because there's so many wrong ways to do this. When you get locked into a contract with a ATA carrier or whatever, there's better ways to do it so that you can find a good company, to get you from maybe working in a warehouse to a career in driving. The driving will take us all the way through to our extreme upper whatever as a whole career. And you got to get started somewhere.
Yeah. Well, and I see it. You sell it online. It's an ebook, and right now it's
I
on
do.
sale for $5. So I mean,
Oh yeah,
everybody, even in COVID, everybody could afford $5.
sure. You gotta have $5.
Well, actually, it's 8 Canadian, but you know.
Oh, that's the metric system again.
You know, but where did you start? You said, or sorry, you didn't say, but I read that you were working for Arby's way back
I was.
then.
Yeah, America's roast beef, yes sir. And I would come home late at night and see these ads on TV near Chicago that said you can make the big money in trucking and get respect of the motoring public. And I'm like, well, I want the respect of the motoring public. And I went to truck school.
How did that work out for you, the respect of the motoring public?
I'm waiting for that still. The truck school has since closed and I still haven't gotten that. But I still have a career from it. And it was $1,500 back then. And no problem.
Hey, well, look, I do have something relatively new, and this is kind of new now. So when you talk about the respect of the motoring public, these are actually selling quite well.
All right.
And at least up here in Canada, truck drivers have been getting a lot of positive press at the moment because of COVID and the fact that truck drivers are keeping the stores stocked.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, was kind of hyped, at least depending where you were, especially now because hours of service are still not in effect for all these emergency loads here in the United States until June 14th. The stores are full of product, and I'm getting letters from people now that are going to like a Walmart distribution center being turned away. They're not allowed to come in earlier because the place is packed full of stuff. So the days of where grocery stores are empty, I think, are over. And the days where people like truck drivers are also coming to an end, of course. Pretty soon they'll be disgusted with us just like they used to be.
Well, yeah, and unfortunately, some of that's our fault because, again, I'm involved in safety and I see some horrific wrecks that are the truck driver's fault. And I'm very well aware of the stat that at least in fatals, I think it's 71% of the time the truck driver, the commercial vehicle driver, is not at fault in a fatal crash.
Right. At least, yeah. But a lot, you've seen the two. Why are drivers 4 feet or 1.3 meters behind the car in front of them? Going 70 miles an hour or 120 kilometers.
Yeah, it's following this is my biggest pet peeve. Let me tell you.
I see that's the biggest problem on the road. Really, I think so. Drivers are right behind other trucks too.
Yeah. And up here in Canada, a driver recently got a ticket. We have a couple of airplanes that patrol the major highway up here called 401. And in our Highway Traffic Act, which is how you receive tickets, we have a little law that says you got to be 60 meters away, which is like 200 feet.
Yeah, at least.
And this plane takes a picture, and it was for like 2 minutes long, the video. And the guy was 10 feet off another tractor trailer's bumper. Like, tell me what you can see if you're 10 feet behind another tractor trailer.
I don't know what our drivers are thinking they're going to get somewhere sooner because they're that close. This is why we're getting cameras in the trucks. It's our own fault.
Yeah.
The company, then that forces you to back off because the camera sends an alert back to the company to basically to tell on you.
Well, hey, you bring up something interesting, technology. Is your company that you're driving for now adopting any new technologies?
Yeah, they're testing out the Lytx camera system.
Okay, what's that?
Lytx camera is a camera that can either face out the windshield or also look at the driver or both, and it has a speaker in it. Lytx is the name of the company. It's a widespread use, and hard braking or turning too fast or following too close sets the camera off and the company gets a video about it. And you can also do a live view. Lytx, even though companies always say it, Lytx on their website says absolutely, it's one of our features is that the company can watch the driver driving live. So this is going through the industry, and it's partially our own fault, partially.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's partially like I mentioned to you, I used to work for an insurance company, so I know that if we had a video of the driver, I would bet you that in a collision, 90% of the time, maybe it's 99% of the time, the driver was doing everything right. And that video would prove just that he was doing it right. And he wasn't on his phone, as the lawyers, especially our American friends, they have lawyers.
So they should put them in cars too then.
Absolutely.
Make them mandatory for anybody that's driving. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah. You don't think that would pass in legislation?
Well, that'd be great, wouldn't it? Let's see the AAA talk about that then.
Yeah. I mean, are you a Tesla fan? Just to change subjects.
They're okay. I mean, I would never buy one because I like to drive a car. You know, I'd rather drive a car that you can drive. Going fast silently to me doesn't mean anything, really. I'm just not impressed. I'm just not impressed by going fast silently. And plus, filling it up is a problem still.
Well, unless you, yeah. And I mean, I'm a big fan and I'd love to buy one. I just can't afford one. But the reason I brought it up is they actually have a rear-facing camera built into the rear view mirror. It's currently not turned on. And I don't know, they haven't explained yet what the use is going to be for it. So just interesting that they're building it into their car. Anyways, I've heard rumors as to why, but I don't know why they don't build it into all cars and trucks for that.
Yeah, the Corvette has a forward-facing camera that you can record lap times, and that's what it's for, but you can have it on whenever you want. But otherwise, there's not really any built-in ones. I think because they probably have to fix them then during the warranty, and they're like, well, here's another thing we got to fix, you know, when this thing goes bad.
Yeah. Let me just, what's currently your biggest gripe or complaint about trucking at the moment?
Well, these companies, my biggest gripe, I guess, is companies that put out there, oh, you're family and we love you and everything, and then, oh, why don't you sit around for 4 hours and then we'll pay you $12 an hour, you know, for the next 4 hours. So you sit 8 hours and you get $48, and then when you come in, they give you a pen and go, well, you're really family here. Here's a logoed pen you can have. That kind of stuff is it's just horrible, and the whole industry needs to change. Drivers should get paid for all of their time. This sitting around, it's mainly sitting, is ridiculous. Plus, some of them do. Here, it's called household goods miles. It's an old way of calculating mileage, zip code to zip code. A lot of large companies do it, and so your 500-mile drive pays 450 miles or 440 miles. You telling me that a large company doesn't have the technology to go address to address when I can do that on a $99 phone from, you know, the convenience store? Come on. They're just doing that to not pay drivers. There's way too much of this time that is not paid, that should be paid.
It's been like this. I mean, as I said, I'm 65. It's been like this since I was in my 20s.
I agree with you. I agree, and it needs to change. Yeah. That's what companies say. Well, we've always done it like this. Well, that's not a good reason to do something. There have been a lot of things that have been done that, you know, get changed because people realize it's not right to do.
Oh, yeah. So, anyways, last question, or one of the last questions before we get off on something else. Drug testing clearinghouse.
The drug testing clearinghouse.
That's something new that the state's brought out recently. And I don't know if you realize, have you ever done cross-border trucking?
Years ago, I drove for 3M, and I used to bring you video cassettes to Canada, VCR tapes. Oh, yeah. Wow. So you could record all your shows.
Can you get a job there again, please? Because we're looking for 3M N95 masks, and we're having a very hard time getting them.
Yeah, we don't have any of those, but maybe I could bring more videotapes. Yeah. And I would bring Post-it notes back, so.
I don't think for some reason. Videotape. My wife or girlfriend, Tina, my significant other, let me put it that way, owns a dental hygiene. She cleans teeth, and we can't open yet because we can't get N95 masks. You know.
Are they required there or something?
Yeah, they are now. They're cheap.
Oh, okay.
This is one of the new things because of COVID-19. They're changing some of the stuff, and N95 mask when they're cleaning teeth and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they got to start wearing. So,
oh, okay.
It's to protect the dental hygienist. is what it's for.
Yeah, right. They pretty much wore masks anyway, though, it seems like, when you'd go in. So
Yeah, those were the
maybe.
surgical masks, but they're not very. You may as well put a scarf over your face.
Yeah, they're the fake ones that they make you wear in the store so everybody feels like they're doing something.
Yeah, that's the one. Where the
Exactly.
N95 actually protects the person wearing it. So. But we can't get any, and they're made in the States by 3M. So can you bring them back?
Yeah, it's been so long. I'll have to see if 3M will take me back over there when I used to cross up there.
All right, drug testing clearinghouse. What do you think? Good thing, bad thing?
It's just a big another governmental boondoggle. I mean, truck drivers very low rate of drug use, certainly. When they test them, hardly any do it. And this is another one of those things that if it's so great in keeping the road safe, let's test everybody when they get a driver's license or when they renew it. Everybody has to go for a test. This will be another thing. I signed up for it because every company's got to go through it every year.
Yeah.
So everybody will be in it, but I think it's a disaster. Waiting more millions of dollars, of course, wasting time on so few people. But like they say, if we can save one child, so then apparently it's worth it. But I say no, it's just a big disaster.
And you may not know that cross-border truckers from Canada, we have to do the drug testing. We don't have drug testing in Canada the same as the States.
Wow.
So, as a truck driver, if I didn't cross border, I wouldn't have to be in a drug pool. But many companies have them, but it's not legislated here. But if I cross border, I have to be legal in the States. So then I have to get into the drug testing too. And the drug.
So you can work as a driver in Canada without taking a drug test?
Yeah, and we've legalized marijuana for the whole country, not just a few states.
Well, holy mackerel! Let's all go to Canada.
Well, is Indiana, have they legalized marijuana?
No,
Okay.
they haven't legalized any. We still can't even be open to sell cars on Sunday. Indiana's still 1810 here.
I'm trying to think. I don't know if we can sell cars on Sunday. When I sold cars when I was in my 20s, we didn't sell them on Sundays, but I don't know what it is today if you can do it. But I mean, all of our stores, the malls, other than COVID, all the malls are open and everything on Sundays. So.
Yeah, we just opened back up because I was able to get back into Forever 21 and get some clothes, so that was pretty good.
Well, I appreciate that because I really didn't want to see you sitting here with no clothes on.
Yeah, I'm glad they opened up last week, so that was pretty nice.
We haven't opened our malls up yet, but the store, any store with a street front can open now. So,
Oh, well, that's pretty good. That's so nice of the government to allow stores to be open. That's what I say here. We've asked the Crown here for permission to do things too. And we're hoping that they'll allow us to have our 4th of July celebration of freedom. Hopefully the government will allow that. So,
we're taping this just a few days after Memorial Day.
right.
And I see the flags on the back of your chair, by the way. So,
Yes.
were you ever in the service?
Yes. Army. Yes. Military intelligence.
Oh, hey, that's cool. And
Yeah,
thank
it was
you.
pretty fun.
You may not get thanked often by Canadians, but I, for one, thank the U.S. military because, shit, without you guys, somebody would have overran us already, but thank God the Americans like us.
Well, it's quite all right. You know, I think everybody should have to go in, really. I mean, it's people gave up their freedom so quickly. You know, it's another thing that I've talked about on here, so fast because they don't realize, you know, what they're doing. It should never have happened, at least not here. I don't think.
Well, and, you know, you're talking about giving up freedoms. The new COVID trackers, this whole thing about being able to track the people you've come in contact with, a huge issue about freedoms and tracking, and people smarter than me will figure it out. But I don't know if that's going to get off the ground in Canada or the U.S.
Oh, it's going to get off the ground, absolutely, and people will willingly download it to be safe. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you think so?
I won't be having it. But there'll be tons of people that'll be happy to be tracked 24 hours a day by the government to make sure that they might be safe, you know, with a 0.02% chance of dying. So absolutely.
Yeah, okay. What else we got to talk about? We're just, you know, I'm respectful of your time. We've already been on for just over 30 minutes, I think. What else do we need to cover?
Hey, anything, you know, I'm here for you. time is not a problem here, so I'm happy to talk about whatever you got. There's what about the turnover? The turnover. Did you see this? There was a large company. I don't know if you want me to name them. So during COVID, right, people couldn't get a bus in the United States. We have Greyhound,
Right.
and these companies shuttle you in on a bus like cattle. And that's one thing I tell people: just when they say Greyhound, hang up on them. Okay, professionals don't take a bus. They can't say you're professional and then send you on a Greyhound across. One person wrote to me, they went from Virginia to Utah on a Greyhound, 5 days. You're not a professional. But this company used their corporate jet to pick people up because their turnover is so high that if they waited a month to start getting new drivers in on the bus, that they would be down a 25% of their workforce or whatever. So they sent their corporate jet around to go pick people up. I assume now they're back on the bus for $38 or whatever for 3 days. But yeah, that's what they're doing. The bus. You're a professional. Here's a bus ticket. Try not to sit next to anybody doing meth.
Well, and try not to sit near anybody with COVID either.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, right.
right now,
Which is probably everybody on the bus. That's why they're on the bus.
I tell you, I'm not aware of any companies in Canada that recruit like that. Only because I suspect that we're not large enough. It's not because we are more moral or anything like that. I wish it was. But our big companies, they either have terminals frequently, like throughout. But yeah, I'm not aware of anybody that would actually hire you and bring you in on a bus.
How do they bring you to the terminal then?
Most of the time, for the companies I've ever worked for, the drivers get there somehow on their own. You want to work for us, come to the terminal and apply.
Oh.
And yeah, I'm just trying to think. I don't know of anybody, but we don't have as many huge companies like, the Swiss or not to name companies, but, we don't have those huge 10,000 truck fleets, the Schneiders and stuff like that. I don't know what our biggest fleets are up here, 3,000, 4,000, something like that.
Well, they do this, I think, because if you're going to come there to go to their truck school also, you're going to come in for 3 weeks of that and then maybe be out with a trainer for 3 or 4 weeks. You may be gone, 7 weeks before you get home. And so many people may only have one car.
Right.
So whoever you're leaving at home is not going to have transportation. So they bus your butt in. And then here, at least a lot of companies in the United States let you take the truck home with you if you have somewhere to park it. So there's that as well. So then you're back home with the truck.
Yeah, and you're tied in. How about bankruptcies in the States? COVID is, as I say, we're recording this in the middle of COVID, but hell, trucking freight rates have dived because all of a sudden there's an abundance of trucks sitting empty. What do you think the fallout of this all is going to be? I noticed that Hertz Car Rentals, yesterday I saw that in the paper, has filed for bankruptcy.
Right, Hertz is bankrupt.
Yeah, so what do you think of the trucking industry? Do you see any of that on the horizon for our industry?
Yeah, trucking companies that are on the edge are going to be closed. They're just not going to make it. And the owner-operators, you probably saw them protesting in Washington, D.C. For higher rates. They didn't understand why the rates went down. They want the government. These are the same people that hate regulation. They immediately go to the government and say, hey, do something about these rates. That's not how it works here. All these trucks now are trying to compete for half the freight. And so rates go down, absolutely. And that's how it works. The rates will come back up. And people that make it will do even better because some people will fall out. So if you can make it through, the other side is bright.
And from everything I'm reading now, it has started to pick up again, thank God.
Yes, people are writing back because that's how I can gauge what's going on from the emails that I get. And now the miles are going back up in people. People were down to 800, 900 miles a week and saying, should I change jobs? And I'm like, probably not, because wherever you go, it's going to be 1,000 miles a week. So you're just going to have to hang out for a little bit until it picks back up.
Yeah. I recently had somebody reach out and say, how do I become an owner operator? I've been a truck driver for this many years, and this is right in the middle of COVID. Who wants to become an owner operator? And so you can imagine what my response back was, maybe you should wait a year and see what the hell the economy's doing.
Yeah, you're going to need to get more than, the 70 or 80 cents a mile that some loads are paying if you expect to have any kind of paycheck at the end of that.
Oh yeah, it's just devastating. Hey, Mark, I'm going to put all your contact information in the show notes below. If people want to reach out to you, did you give me, sorry, I'll have to cut that out of the edit here. Did you give me permission to put your email in there?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, I get emails all day from people. I love writing back to drivers, and I answer all my emails. It's me and my staff, which is a cat, and she sleeps most of the day, so I answer the emails.
It's a tabby
pretty
cat,
much myself.
is it not?
It is an orange tabby cat, right? Gracie. She's on the live show that I do and stuff, and so we always have a cat hanging around. So you see cat pictures here and there as well, besides the flags.
Well, there you go. So we got flags, we got cats, we got a book that if somebody wants to know how to get started, I imagine it's got a slight American slant to it, but most of it would apply to Canadian trucking as well. I mean, this is something that Ontario has that other provinces have started to adopt, and the US has postponed, and that's minimum level of training for new truck drivers.
Yes, they postponed it here because our friends at the ATA, right, are not a fan of this minimum level, because here you can become a trainer. There's no requirement even here to be a trainer. You can literally get out of truck school and now you're a trainer if a company will allow it, and some allow it after just a few months. So yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it here, I don't know if you have the problem with contracts. Do you have the contract problem in Canada? If you go to a truck school here through a trucking company, you then have a contract you have to sign, and you have to work there for so many months, whatever it says. You cannot I shouldn't say you can't. It's very difficult for you to get a job at another company if you're on contract with them. So maybe you're making $450 a week. You can't go anywhere else. The company says, sorry, you're on contract. You're just locked in. And that's a lot of what I try to cover, that kind of thing. Don't get this contract. It can ruin you.
Yeah. And we don't have as many trucking companies that own truck driving schools as I think you do. As a safety consultant, one of the things I got hooked up with is PTDI, Professional Truck Training Institute. And so
right.
I'm the North American auditor for that. And so I do audits of truck driving schools to make sure that they're complying with the manual, basically, that they're meeting the minimum requirements of PTDI. And so because of that, there was a large company that I'd already mentioned on the show that had, I think at the time I did the audit, they have 7 truck driving locations, schools, and some of them were PTDI certified. And yeah, they were putting through at each location an average of 30 students a month at each location. Just a phenomenal amount of people going through that.
Yeah, because on the other end, they're walking right out the back door as soon as they get to work, for this place, probably.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're going right to work, but they're under contract. They didn't have to pay for it, but if they didn't fulfill their contract, what I was told is they would have to reimburse the company for the schooling.
I don't mind. I don't even mind that because they're getting the school free. The problem is when these companies then don't follow what they've said. Oh, you're out 6 weeks. You sit around. People send me these checks, and it's so sad. They'll send me a $300 check. They're getting $300, $400 a week, and they're under contract. That's not. I don't think the company then has done its side of it, of giving you a job. I guess they give you a job, but at such low pay, and you're stuck. You can't go anywhere else.
Yeah, I would hesitate to sign any contracts. But the first job, and I read on your website, you had your first job up in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
And it was local P&D because you said you got itchy a little while and decided to go trucking to all 49 states.
Yeah, you got to. Well, I went local, but I didn't go any training. That's why I don't know if I'm big on the training. At truck school, we graduated Thursday. Monday, I went to work locally in Chicago.
Right.
Never trained or anything like that by anybody.
Well, you said you went to truck driving school.
I did, but after that, now there's this long months and months of training.
Right. Oh, okay.
I just went right to work. Monday morning, I'm doing 20 stops in Chicago. That's how, right out of truck school. of 3 weeks, and actually less, because Friday of the last week was to make up Thursday if you failed,
Right.
which almost everybody passed on Thursday. So you had a little over 2.5 weeks, and off you went to work.
I was fortunate that I had a car driver's license, and I was working for a company that had vehicles that were regulated under that license. And I went to Human Resources and I said, I want to upgrade. And they said, sure, show up on your day off. We'll put you out in the truck and we'll train you. So I didn't have to pay for truck driving school. That's how I got my license. And they could even test me at the time.
Wow.
So, yeah, anyway, Mark.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. And hey, and trucking has been really good to me and my family. My ex-wife and kids, we all had a very good life because of trucking. And now I'm still making my living in transportation. I'm very happy and proud to be in this industry, and proud to still have my truck driver's license in my pocket for now.
Yeah, I think it's a great career for anybody, and it'll carry them all the way through their whole life. Absolutely. It'll pay for everything your whole life, trucking will.
Yeah.
If you keep a clean record, and cut down on the tickets, and you got it made. That's all people got to do, really.
Yeah. And I love it. Mark, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time and everything. And with permission, I'll invite you back again.
Oh, sure. I'm ready to come back. Right now, we can get started another show. But yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I mean, it's been great being on here.
All right. Thanks, Mark. I hope you loved the show as much as I did. Please leave us a like, a thumbs up, a review, a comment, a rating if it is in your heart. Thank you so much. And I do really appreciate your time. And join us again next week for another exciting interview.